This is going to be a video looking at the common problems of the E55 AMG and what to look for if you're interested in purchasing an E55 AMG. So the first thing to look for when you're looking at an E55 AMG is particularly for 2003 models. If you're looking at a 2003 model, you want to make sure in the service history that the radiator has been replaced. 2003 models are known to have defective radiators that allow coolant to spread through the transmission cooler and into the transmission, which can damage the transmission as well. So you want to make sure that job has been done or adjust the price to account for that. 2004, 2005, 2006 don't have this problem. The most popular issue talked about on the E55 AMG and even other Mercedes is the aromatic air suspension. Now, when you go to look at the car, you want to make sure that you lift the car, lower the car in the different settings to make sure that the car pumps up and down nicely. And you also want to take care of the car for a drive and make sure that after the drive the car is still level on all corners and that after a few hours nothing has sagging. If the car settles a few inches within a few hours, then you know that you have a leak. But if the car settles a little bit, if you don't drive the car for a few weeks or a month, that's normal. And even new Mercedes tend to do that if you see them at the dealership. If you end up having a strut that leaks, common misconceptions are spread around that they cost thousands of dollars each to replace. But the reality is that you can get them from Arnott for $500 and they have a good warranty. There are also coilover kits available out there for people who want to completely delete the air suspension and just have the car set at one height. Now the potential advantage of the aromatic suspension is that you can adjust the different heights, you can get lowering links to lower the car like this car, and you can get a lowering module that allows you even more flexibility. Take the car for a test drive. When you're test driving the car, you want to make sure that the suspension feels smooth. When driving over bumps or a rougher road, it still should be pretty smooth and no clunking from any of the bushings. Also, you want to make sure that the transmission is shifting smooth. On uphill, it should change down nicely, and also when changing through the gears on the paddles, it should be fairly smooth. The transmission fluid on these cars needs to be changed. People say, or Mercedes says, it might be a sealed for life transmission, but that's simply not the case. The transmission fluid should be regularly replaced, and you want to look at service history to tell if that has been done or not. Sometimes you'll have cars out there that didn't have it changed, and you're looking at cars with 80, 100,000 miles, and you'll go to change the fluid, and you'll find that it's black or really bad, and the car's not shifting very well. That's because the fluid hasn't been changed. Another thing to do with the transmission on these cars is the transmission connector flange. It tends to leak. So if you notice a pool of transmission fluid on the ground, it's potentially going to be this issue. And it's not that hard to change this. It's not a very expensive part, and it's just a plastic piece with a gasket around it, and what happens is that gasket deteriorates and there's some leakage. Now that's something you want to fix right away because the transmission computer can be damaged if you don't replace it. Another common problem with the E55 AMG is the fuel sender unit. It tends to leak. You notice that by looking for any dampness or gas smell around the rear seats. Now it is a bit of a pricey replacement, but fortunately there has been a recall for that in the United States to get that replaced under warranty. This car has a very reliable powertrain if maintained properly, so check that service history very closely to make sure that oil changes, transmission fluid changes have been done. If the car you're looking at has the panoramic sunroof, be wary of the motor in that panoramic roof. You want to make sure that you're testing it, making sure that it all works, fully slides back, and that it's quiet and smooth. You also want to check for any uneven wear on the brake rotors. A couple of things you need to look out for in the engine bay. An important one is the valve cover gaskets tend to leak in these cars. Now this is not something that's going to leave you stranded on the side of the road. It's just something that makes the engine look all dirty. Another issue on the E55 AMG is that the oil pan also tends to leak. Now this is not something that's going to leave you stranded on the side of the road, but again, it's a pretty costly job to do because you have to remove the subframe to get the oil pan out. Another important thing to check for when the engine is on is for any grinding or grumbling or squeaking from any of the pulleys on the front of the engine. Another common problem with these M113 motors in the E55 AMG is the crankshaft position sensor tends to go bad, and you can diagnose this by a rough or shaky idle or the car having trouble starting when it's warm. This is not a very expensive thing to replace, but you can notice this while you're test driving your E55. Another thing to look out for is, due to the car's large torque, the motor mounts tend to wear out, and you can diagnose that by revving the car a little bit and looking under the hood if the engine moves. If it moves a lot, then you know that the motor mounts are shot. Some of these E55 AMGs out there are seriously modified for racing the quarter mile and stuff like that, so be aware that some of these cars are going to be driven pretty hard, and you want to watch for signs of high wear and tear. It's of key importance to look at the history of the car you're looking at. You want to look how many owners, what's the mileage, what's the condition, and that all factors into your price. It's best to just look at what the market is at on Auto Trader and stuff like that with the E55 prices, and price your car accordingly, whether it has full service history or it doesn't. Now I'm just going to mention the obvious. You obviously want to check the Carfax, read the service history of the car, and evaluate the condition of the car. You want to take a code scanner with you, and if there's a check engine light, you want to check what that is. And you want to also test everything in the car. That's the key. I've made some mistakes in the past where I've not tested everything in the car and then found something's broken and not negotiated on it. The important thing is you want to test if the air conditioning is cold, you want to test if all the windows work, you want to test if that sunroof works, you want to test everything to make sure that you're getting what you pay for. Even if everything checks out or you feel pretty confident with looking at the car yourself, it's still potentially worth the extra time and money to get a pre-purchase inspection from a shop. The reason for this is that it'll be better for you to negotiate with, because the owner of the car that you're trying to buy will be more likely to listen to a mechanic who says these things are wrong rather than just yourself saying these things are wrong, and they could potentially help you bargain. This concludes my video highlighting the common problems of the E55 AMG and what to look for when you're buying your own. The good thing about these cars is they have a very large community modifying them and looking after them, and if you have any questions or you have any problems down the line, the problem has already been fixed or already looked after, so you'll probably be able to find a fix.